Hmm. Yep.
There, right? Yeah.
Yep. We're live on YouTube as well, so we're good to go. We
Awesome.
are all cylinders are firing. We're good to go.
Hello to you both, Facebook and YouTube. I'm currently sharing the stream on my Facebook page right now. Um,
Oh man.
I suggest
Yeah.
you do the same.
I'm doing it right now.
Although my computer is moving mighty slow, and I don't know why because it's brand new.
That is strange. You got updates going on in the background? Because you know those pesky updates, they'll get you.
Yeah, that could be. It could be. It could also be Facebook just being a trash thing.
Application. I mean,
Application.
it kind of is one of those. So.
It's one of the two of them, that's for sure. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, we have some good stuff that we're wanting to talk about. First of all, if
Mm-hmm.
you're checking us out for maybe the first time, hello. I say that because our reels on YouTube have blown up. It's been
Mm-hmm.
wild. I had this reel that we did from when Blake was on the podcast talking about real amps versus fake amps.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing is still getting likes. I posted it probably 3 weeks ago. And yeah, it's still doing well. So,
Yeah.
hello to our newfound friends if you're tuning in for the first time. This week, another week, obviously, of our new format, which is becoming less and less new each week that I mentioned that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, we are this week talking about a topic that Daniel Garrett, friend of the show,
Mm-hmm.
sent us, and kind of taking it and running with it. It's really his perspective on it is exactly what we want to talk about, and that is the divisiveness over what's going on in Ukraine. Of course, everyone is talking about it. We know this. You know, you see it everywhere. Um, Suddenly, everybody's a geopolitical analyst, right? Uh, but I will say, for me, it's times like these that I have FOMO from working in the news. Man, I miss it.
You miss
Um,
these action stories like this?
Well, these are the things that no matter what people say about the news, these are the moments that will always keep it relevant. That's breaking news situations.
That's true.
Um,
That's very true.
and yeah, and as soon as Russia invaded, I turned on liberal CNN because because I wanted to see what was going on, and they always have the best foreign. I mean, they have more connections worldwide than any other news network does. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what the action was. And it was crazy. There was a guy that had to move after a bomb went off, or really a missile landed, not far behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I've really been paying close attention to it, watching it probably more often than not the past 3 days now.
Mm-hmm.
But what we want to talk about really is how is it that we live in a society where we're not all behind people being free, right? Um, and it's really interesting to me that we live in this state where you could argue that what Vladimir Putin is doing is right and good. So hopefully what we want is for you guys to jump on the live stream
Mm-hmm.
to counter argue this, because I already know Denson and I are going to be on the same page when it comes to this. So whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, jump in the comments, because we want to get both sides for sure. But it
Mm-hmm.
is an interesting world that we live in, that we can look at a group attacking democracy and say, well, can you blame them? Right? So I'm definitely about to go off on this. I set my mug to the side so I don't lose it.
Oh man.
Hit the recording here. Okay. All right, we're recording. Cool. Look at this beard,
Cool.
man. First time in my life. Got some beard action. It looks good.
I know, it's surprising. Usually you
I
shave it
know.
off at this point, man.
I know. I have to keep it because it actually filled out like a man is supposed to have a beard. Um,
I still don't. I don't. That still doesn't really happen for me. This
now
is
you got you
this is
got you
pretty
got the
much
cool
where it
little.
goes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
all
I
right.
got the goatee going, but like I can't get like a good, nice mountain man beard going on.
No, it's okay. You don't want one, man. You don't need all that. You don't want to be looking like the Hodge twins, bro. The Hodge twins now. You don't want to be looking like that by yourself. Maybe,
That's true.
yeah. So, okay, here we go. Let's get into this. I think we just start with the topic. I think that's how we got to do it nowadays.
Yeah,
I think
man.
we just kind
I'm
of set
cool
up the
with that.
topic from the jump. So, okay, 3, 2, 1. This week's topic comes to us from Daniel Garrett. Thank you for sending that in, as always. But it's an interesting. It's based on what has everybody talking right now. It's the invasion of the Ukraine, and Daniel's perspective on it really is exactly what we want to talk about. Not so much his perspective necessarily, but the divisiveness over it. How is it that we can argue whether what Russia is doing or not is right? How is it that there are voices in our own country watching the democracy being attacked, right, with made up lies about, what's going on over there, and saying, yeah, I agree with Vladimir Putin, right? It's crazy to me. So definitely we want to talk about this. It's what I've seen on everybody's radar. And I think what the scary part is it's feeding into this discussion is feeding into the things that we're doing in reaction to this invasion. And in my opinion, it's putting us in a weak position. It's making us look weak when it comes to this kind of a thing. So what do you think, real quick?
Yeah, man, I think it's really strange. I mean, to be honest, though, I feel like we've been in this kind of state for at least it feels like 4 years, right? This kind of weird state of like things that should be obvious for everybody are somehow not. I think it just kind of shows more of like well, I'll get into it a little bit later, but yeah, it's just a little strange, right?
I feel like it all starts with one person, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah. So we want to talk about this, but before we get into it, remember, we want to know your topics, what has had you talking, what's been on your mind each week that keeps popping up in your world. So we're live streaming on Facebook right now. We're live streaming on YouTube. Let us know in the comments what's had you talking, and it will be featured in an upcoming episode of the Catch Up Podcast. It's a really cool way for us to continue the discussion, build the community, and connect with you in a really cool way. All that we ask is that you share it when this episode goes live. So with that said, man, I think we're ready. The coffee's hitting. Let's go ahead and get it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I know exactly what I want to say. So I'm going to let you start because
yeah, that works.
Otherwise I'm going to run away with the train. So
yeah, no worries. Yeah, no, I'll go ahead and start it up.
Okay. I'll do the intro. Yeah. We'll do all that. Okay. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? I'm John.
And I'm Dennison.
And this is the Catch Up. Dude, I don't know how I've gotten, side note for the live streamers, I don't know how I've gotten so good at that. You know how, I mean, it's a definite like habit for us, but like, when I kick the intro music on the recording, and I never move our vocals. I never cut that and move it around. I never do. So it's always like, what's going on, everybody? I'm John. And I'm Jensen. And this is the Catch Up. Like it's so right on the beat.
That's
and
dope.
I never have to change. Yeah, I never edit that. It's so weird. Like literally, we've been doing this way too long. But yeah,
we just got to memorize, man.
I know.
We can hear the beat in our heads.
We're hearing it in our heads
and feel the beat.
Yeah, we're literally like Rain Man, but for podcasts. Okay, let's go ahead. I'll do our thing here. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Before we get into our topic today, we want to remind you guys the 3 best ways to support us. First, leave us a rating and review, no matter where you're watching, where you're listening. Let us know how we're doing and hit the subscribe button. Each one of those actions, even if it's negative, helps us grow. It helps us either learn from it or it helps the show become more visible to potential listeners. So it's very key that we get that. And it's a good free way to support us. If you want to support us monetarily, go to our website. That's linked in the description of wherever you're listening. But it's nosignalrocks.com. There's a drop down menu for the Catch Up Podcast. And what you'll find is all of our episodes, all of our videos, and all of our merch and apparel in one place. A very cool way to support it because we got t-shirts, hoodies, hats, beanies, cell phone cases, and mugs. Man, I remembered them all this time. Okay.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Yeah. So we got them all on there. A lot of cool ways for you to support the show and get something out of it. And then, just reach out to us through one of our channels and let us know what's had you talking. Like I said, you can do that on our Facebook page, Instagram page, email us at theketchupcast@gmail.com. And of course on our YouTube as well. All of those are linked in the description of the episode. But in any case, just search our podcast title and it will pop right up. So with that said, man, why don't you start us off here? Again, this is a growing discussion around the world. It seems like our focus here in America is being taken away from what's physically happening in Ukraine to certain voices saying that we shouldn't be involved and that Russia, you can't blame them for what they're doing, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, as we said earlier, it's kind of crazy that this is happening in general. I mean, I kind of feel like it's, in the last couple of weeks or whatever like that, like this kind of first went from a joke in some ways to where a lot of people were just like, it's never going to happen, blah blah blah, to transitioning over to like, okay, well, this is getting close to like a real threat, and then bam, high alert, where we've just jumped into this craziness. And it's kind of interesting to see how people are reacting, not just like real people, but it's also interesting to see how like the modern era, because I feel like this is more like it's new footing for like the modern era when it comes to war, right? Because I feel like Russia's attacking in two ways, right? They're not just attacking Ukraine like physically, they're also attacking their internet, they're also attacking the Western social media, which is really different and something that we're not used to. And it's crazy how it sounds bad, but like how well that the social media portion of it is working, because we have people here who are in the rhetoric, like you said earlier, of, oh, well, like it's not our business, like it's okay, we shouldn't be involved, when it's literally people's freedoms being trampled on.
Yeah. Well, it's more than that too. I usually am one of those people, to be honest. Like, we shouldn't be the police of the world. But here's the thing: we are a member of NATO, and we therefore support the European Union. And there's credible evidence that this move into Ukraine is just the first step. And not only that, but Ukraine said they wanted to become a member of NATO and wanted to become a member of the European Union. And they were waiting on that documentation to start. And that's when Russia started getting ready to move in and invade. So it's really an attack on that. It's not about separatists or attacking Russians or anything like that. I'm sure that's happening too. I mean, every lie is based in truth, but not to the extent of where you should invade a free country. In fact, I watched a soundbite of Vladimir Putin talking about there was the military is now hiding in civilian neighborhoods, right? And so he basically, I forget the exact way he said it, but he basically said, take no quarter, don't let any of these people stop you from taking out the targets, which basically means kill civilians, right? And what way can you justify that? I mean, you can't. And so anyway, I want to know, if you guys are on the live stream, where you think this all started, and how it's been perpetuated, because Dennis and I agree with you on social media. I'll give you guys a chance to comment that, but I saw one guy today post something about it was about the origins of COVID, a lie that said there was proof that Moderna had studied the exact genetic sequence of COVID-19 3 years before the pandemic broke out. 4 years. And I'm like, man, they're not even like Pfizer was the first one with the vaccine. Like, if that were true for Moderna, they'd be like, you guys won't believe this. We have a vaccine.
We're ready to go.
Yeah, you can't believe that? We're just sitting on it. What a coincidence. Like, just logic. You know, and this is the thing. I feel bad for these people. And what we've learned through the past 6 years is that there's more of these people out here than we realize. I feel bad for them because they're so paranoid about life. They would rather believe that Democrats, liberals, the deep state, NATO, the European Union, and the UN are all out to get them. And the only people that are good out there are Republicans and Christian conservatives. The only good leaders, right? So imagine living that life. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. But anyway, there was that. And then another post. There were two, actually. It was something about don't believe all that you see in Ukraine. And it was supposedly, a video this woman was showing how the streets were empty in Ukraine. All right. Now, what I suspect, and I don't have any, evidence to back this up, but I think that this video was taken and then overlaid with these other comments on it to make it look like this Ukrainian person was saying, don't believe the lies the media is telling you. But really what she audibly said on her video was, this is crazy. The streets are empty. There's no one here. There's not a single soul out here, right? But the caption on the video was, like TikTok style caption, was, don't believe the lies the media are telling you. The invasion isn't as bad as it seems. It's not real, like blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think she's saying that. I'm thinking she's saying it's a ghost town because people are leaving, right? And so I don't know, like, if you watch the media, they're very clear about what's going on in those cities at that time. It's not like they're like, oh, it's a mad, like, no. And in fact, you're not seeing the video as much of the fighting because it puts them in danger. There was literally a CNN reporter that had to run out of the way because of gunfire. And he thought he was talking to Ukrainian military, and it was Russians. Russians had just taken over the base that he was in filming. And then Ukrainians started shooting, and they had to run out of the way.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, like this is very real. This is very real. So, anyway, social media definitely perpetuating the lie. My mom is chiming in on the live stream, and she says, "This is just the first step, and Putin has more than he wants, or more that he wants to conquer than just Ukraine. He threatened the U.S. to stay out of it, or there will be consequences more than the U.S. has ever known." I'm not 100% sure on that. I watched, there were a couple of political analysts that said that was more directed to the neighboring countries like Poland because of the context with which it was said. So like Poland, Baltic states like that, right? Yeah, exactly. Also, if you know someone that has family over there and talk to them, then you do know it's real. Exactly. So I don't know. But yeah, it is interesting because I thought that too when I first heard that, but it turned out it was actually about, those neighboring countries. So anyway, go ahead, man. I don't want to hog this whole discussion,
No, man. No, I mean, I think you're completely right. I mean, we've already seen like things being posted to social media where there have been like people, taking old pictures of
Yeah.
like just normal like training things, and they've shown that and stuff like that, saying like, oh man, they're doing this and that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy just to see like how much is going on, but then at the same time, how much misinformation is being fed. I feel like just as much information that's getting put out, there's just as much, if not more, misinformation that's getting thrown out to make it harder for everyone to understand exactly what's going on, right? And not to
Right.
mention that it's being mean to, to all get out and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's
Um,
definitely me. I saw this great one. I'm not gonna lie. It was it was you know how the NBA commissioner Adam Silver walks up to the podium to announce the draft picks for the NBA
mhm.
draft? The caption was, and with the first pick in the World War III draft, the USA selects, and it had the ding 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 music that they play when they're walking through the podium. And Biden was walking up. Like, oh my god! But you know what? And it was funny. But the thing about it is that it takes away from the severity of what's going on. And
Yep.
what's interesting is that as we argue about this, people have yet to figure out it's the exact same style of argument that's being created through social media as what happened with Hillary versus Trump, what happened with after Biden versus Trump. And that tells you because there was proof from the now what those people call liberal CIA that that was Russia doing that, right? Russia and China,
Yeah.
but Russia. And another great point I want to make about this too. I saw somebody, I believe he's a former general, talking about China is watching what we do because they have those states in the or those islands in the South China Sea that they believe is theirs, right? So
Yep.
they're watching how the world reacts to this, and if we're going to let Russia get away with this, they're going to think the same thing, right? China's going to think the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well,
uh, go ahead.
one thing I did want to add to that too
Yeah.
is like I guess the other layer to all of this is that like when it comes to like the UN and really just NATO in general, like it's so many different layers because it's like how much force do you want to put on there? Like do you want to go in like, just send all your troops and start doing stuff, but that could cause issues, right? Or do you want to just say like, well, we can give support by supplying, the Ukraine soldiers, um, with extra support and financial support and guns and weapons and stuff like that? Or do you want to do kind of big sanctions and stuff like that? Or do you do a combination of all of it? And it's because it's so tense, right? Because it's like you're not facing like a smaller state power
Right.
like North Korea or whatever like that, right? It's something, it's Russia, right? They're much bigger. They
Yeah.
have a bigger leeway, I guess I should say, than other like smaller places. So it's like you can't just put the hammer down um and say like, oh well, you're just gonna do this and
Yeah.
everything will be okay, and they just back down. So yeah, it's a scary situation, and it's really confusing. Um,
Yeah. I will say,
yeah.
I think that we weren't doing enough. I know that the U.S. did just decide to sanction Putin
Hmm.
today, so that's good. But up until
Yeah.
then, I didn't think that enough was being done, and I find it funny. Actually, this is kind of comical. So a couple of local distilleries have thrown out all of their Russian vodka. They've thrown out all their Russian. Like, man, that's a business loss for a very small political statement that you're making.
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm. It's true.
but it's so dumb because you know what? Russia already made the money when you bought that to
Yeah,
the store.
exactly.
So just quit buying it, but sell what you have. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
oh my god. But but
But
anyway,
you got to make that statement, man. You got to make that
yeah, I
statement.
know.
Well,
I would love
and
to know how that
actually,
made it on the news. too.
Yeah, that's true.
It's probably a well-worded Facebook message from the owner of the shop that was like, "Hey, I heard this one place is like throwing out their things in protest of Russia." You know?
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also interesting because I saw an article that was talking about that like some of the Russian people are also um, doing protests,
They are.
um,
They're getting
and
arrested
like
for it.
saying like we shouldn't be doing this. This is bad, blah blah blah, which is really interesting.
Yeah, they're
Um,
getting arrested for it, saying that it's dangerous with COVID-19 to be gathering in a group. So we're going to arrest you
yeah,
for that, right?
yeah, exactly, and put you in a detention cell with the rest of the people, so that way you can get COVID, right?
Right, exactly. Or
Yeah,
at least you're confined when you do get COVID.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but then and on the flip side of it, of course, I've been very F1 heavy lately when it comes to news. But this is
Hmm.
fascinating. This is what makes it the most interesting sport in the world to me. Haas F1 is an American-owned F1 team. However, they are funded by one of the 37 people that had a business meeting with Vladimir Putin the day that Russia invaded Ukraine.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a business meeting that Putin had, likely with oligarchs, probably, I'm jumping to conclusions, but probably to explain that, there are going to be sanctions and you're going to be impacted, right?
Hmm.
Um, and this guy is one of those people that was in that meeting. He owns, I forget, I think it's Uralkali, Uralkali, I think is what it was
Hmm.
called. And it's an oil company. They were the primary sponsor of Haas F1. And Nikita Mazepin is a Russian driver, and he's the son of this guy that owns the company. So that's obviously how he got the ride.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they are now, and literally, one day this invasion happened. The next day they said, we're not racing in Russia this year. It's not going to happen. We cannot
Mm.
be in a country that's going to act like this, right? Um,
Mhm.
which is interesting, kind of hypocrisy, because they do race in the the Saudi Arabia and all those places, and they commit genocide against LGBT community. But still, this is a war, this is an invasion, it's different circumstances. So uh, anyway, they canceled the Russian GP. Haas dropped that sponsorship, and they're not going to have Mazepin drive for them because they can't. He doesn't have
Mhm.
funding, is the thing. So, or not. Actually, it's not that. It's not that. Hold on. Sorry. It was the sanctions may revoke any Russian visas, and you have to,
Ah.
if you're Russian and in F1, you have to have visas to race in all these countries. And so he wouldn't literally legally be able to be in those countries, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So,
That is.
um, yeah. So anyway, but to me, that's like the reaction that should happen, right? Like, this is not right. We're going to do what our part is to not support that, And
Mhm.
I know that is a sports organization versus a government, totally different. I understand that, but still, I'm glad that it's catching up now. Anyway, I want to get back to where this all started for this misinformation. Donald Trump, man, I'm not, the first people
Mhm.
that were high up enough for their voice to matter like this were him and his former Secretary of State and former Kansas Congressman, Mike Pompeo, right? They were the ones
Yep.
that said this was a smart move, and, blah, blah, blah. Like, these Ukrainians have been attacking Russians for years, whatever. And no matter what, if you look at it from the perspective of Putin, it is a smart move, of course, but that's from the brain of a maniac. And I guess if you're a maniac yourself, you probably relate to it. But I
Mhm.
don't see any reason to pull punches on this anymore. This guy continues to influence world politics and he's not even in a position of power anymore. Why we even care what he says? I don't
Yeah.
freaking know. I don't know why we give this guy any airtime. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Of course, he said
It's
this
because
would
he's
never
got money.
happen.
That's
Well, yeah, that's partly it. And of course, he says this would never have happened if he were president. Of course, he says that.
of course.
But I'm just saying, these are major things that we cannot afford to have these kind of discussions. Now
Yep.
the problem is the other side of this is also very melodramatic. Chuck Schumer was like, we need to all come together and be as one as we were in 9/11. Comparing 9/11 with this, from our perspective as a country, not even close to the same thing, right?
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, not even close. But it's just, I don't understand how an autocratic country trying to take control of a democratic country when they don't want to be taken control of is acceptable. What if, I mean, to be honest, we're kind of an autocratic country, right?
Yeah.
We say you have the right to protest, but we can come up with some legal reason that that's not okay for you to be protesting anytime we want, and they kick you off the street. So I don't know, but let's say that we got tired of Canada, right? Let's say that they were like chucking syrup over the border.
Not Canada.
No, man, they had it coming for years. Freaking riding moose and
hogging all the syrup.
They're looking all smug. Yeah, literally with their syrup reserves. They're looking all smug with their Canadian bacon and stuff. And they invented ice hockey and they think they're great. So we decide we're going to invade them, right? And we're going to take control. We're going to kill Justin Trudeau. He had it coming too, right? We're going to kill Justin Trudeau, and then we're going to install our own government in there just because, let's say for the sake of argument, Canadians were killing Americans at the border. So we're going to destroy the whole country and put in our own country, right?
Yeah.
That sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's it's insanely crazy. And that's what's super duper scary, I guess, is that there are some people out here that are okay with that. That there's some people out here who are just like, well, we should just be involved with that stuff. Like they should do whatever they want. And it doesn't make any sense, right? It's where there is a huge human element that I guess some people are missing and not understanding and essentially getting to a point to where they're just like, oh, I mean, we shouldn't interfere. It's like, oh, you shouldn't interfere when this isn't near you, but if it was near you, this would probably be an issue. So it's like, why have things changed? Like, I mean, I guess I feel like we should be in a point to where we should all understand, like, this is not okay. We should all be able to agree on this and go our separate ways, essentially, and continue on to that. And that's, it's scary, it's terrifying, and it doesn't bode well, because that's the thing. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like, especially when we moved out of the Trump era of Trump being our president or whatever like that, and moving over into us now having President Biden in office, I was hoping that we would kind of get away from this type of toxic mentality that I feel like has just kind of flooded social media. I knew it wasn't going to be instant, but I figured that it was going to slowly just die down and stuff like that. But that's the issue. It hasn't. If anything, it's just flared up even more, and people have just gone farther and farther into their delusions.
Yeah. Well, the reason why, there's two reasons why, is because Trump says the election was rigged. He didn't say that about the one he won, by the way, but it was more rigged. It was more rigged than the other one.
Yeah, but no one's going to admit that, right?
He's not going to. Of course not. Definitely not. And then he also has alluded to potentially running again in 2024 because he can do that. And those two things have fed into this because that's given people something to chew on with them being like, well, it was clearly rigged. And then two, it's given Republicans a reason to still stand for Trump, if you will, because they think there's a chance this guy could get back in office. And if I fight hard enough for him, I could get a good kickback out of it. That's how politics works.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So I don't know.
That's crazy.
And look, like we've said this enough times. We're well aware it happens on the other side, but you don't see the other side saying crazy stuff like this. You don't, you know, not like this, not like supporting Vladimir Putin, the guy who was literally, he's a former member of the KGB, and he's literally said, I want to restore Russia to its former glory. He literally said that. I'm not making that up.
It's crazy.
But people forget that because because honestly, if you have some of these folks out here that are Trump or Trump related, and they say, you know what, I am Jesus Christ, and actually Putin's my right hand, people will be like, yeah, I could see that for sure. Definitely. Yeah. Right. And that's what's scary about it.
Yeah.
This man Putin has literally said he's going to denazify the Ukraine. The leader of Ukraine is Jewish.
I remember seeing that.
He's Jewish. And so is the former one before him, also Jewish. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I just don't know.
Yeah, and the worst part too is that he's talking about like a small, like a super duper small, because there is a small group that is in Ukraine, but he's talking about like the point. It's not even a 1%. It's like a 0.5%, or maybe even like 0.2% of like a Ukraine person or whatever like that, a group. That's this, which is crazy. Like, and it's crazy that he's using these type of propaganda messages just to make him to, I don't know, I guess, make the world seem as though like, oh, see, I'm doing this for justified reasons, when he's not, you know. And it's stupid that people are believing this.
Well, I know. You know what else is crazy too? I remember we said not too many weeks ago on this podcast that, you know, we'll never see conventional war again. It's just going to be cyber warfare, right? Mm-hmm. But I think we weren't accounting for smaller, less developed countries like this. Ukraine's not like, you know, Western Africa or anything like that. Like, it's not that underdeveloped, but it's not the same technological advancement that we are, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I don't think we were accounting for that. And here we are. I'm sure there's cyber warfare going on right now too, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah. I know there is. Because there were reports of the Russians essentially trying to shut down Ukraine's internet. And throttle, and then there are also reports of them throttling their internet speeds as well. So again, another thing that's a really big issue.
Check this out. I want to show this on my screen real quick. I remember this happened live during my morning newscast one time. And I don't know why I was thinking about this the other day, but I was thinking, what's the one thing that in real life made you clinch unlike anything else you've ever seen, you know? And I will show it to you right here. This is this happened, and I think the guy who shot this video posted it to Twitter, and it somehow grabbed on. Then the U.S. government found out about it and took it down. Which, how this guy was able to post, I'm sure this ship probably has Wi-Fi, but like, so I don't know other than that. But anyway, posted it to Twitter, and then the U.S. Navy took it down. I think he even posted to the U.S. Navy's account. So it was in real time. This happened overnight. And I saw this. People started talking about it on Twitter. I found this video. It was like, holy crap, we ran with it. And I actually rolled on the video before the government took it down. So we still had access to it. But watch this.
That's crazy.
So this is what we're talking about. This is Russian destroyer trying, I guess, to start an incident. They're literally going right in front of this U.S. Navy ship, which I don't remember what kind of ship this is, but look how close this is, man. And it
Yeah,
only
it's
gets close.
crazy close.
Yeah,
And it's
like they're
like
going.
getting closer.
Yeah, they're going perpendicular. Obviously, you can see the Russians from where this guy's filming.
Yeah.
The other ship, like, full, turn. They're turning port side as much as they can. But just look how insanely close it is. I mean, you could almost have jumped from one to
Yeah,
another.
exactly.
You know, and then they're taunting them over here. So, these are the people we're talking about. Beyond that, people forget this too, but they fought a little bit of a proxy battle with us in Iran, I believe it was. It was either Iran or Syria, not too long ago, like literally just a couple years ago, and we had to fight them in this. It wasn't a war, but it was a battle, and our troops killed 300 Russian soldiers, right?
Yeah.
Because they started attacking. They started supplying the locals with equipment to attack us. And then we had to fight back, and we killed 300 Russian soldiers. But yet we're supporting this guy. We're saying, man, the media has it all wrong. Ukraine had it coming, terror, blah, blah. Oh, man, I could go off all night on this. It's just crazy to me. Like, the war on terror itself is a whole sham. There's always going to be terror out there. But if a country wants to join NATO and join the European Union, there are rules that has to act by. Yeah. And so those were the intentions of the Ukraine before this happened, before Russia invaded. And it's plain as day to me. It's plain as day to me. But people want to find their own truth, and they want to be paranoid, I guess. It's the only thing I can think of.
No, that's exactly what it is. It's just people, I feel like, really the past, like I said, 4 years or so or whatever like that, people have gained such a distrust for social media, and not just social media, but really just media in general.
Yeah.
And I will say social media has played a part in that because it's given people an outlet for them to jump into these niche groups, essentially, that where they get into a thought loop, right? Because, they have, Joe Blow over here who's got the same opinions and same thought ideas as them. And then you have Mary Sue over here who also has the same thought opinions. And so they just think, oh, well, everybody thinks this. And, even though, they don't understand that they're not getting outside of their little group bubble, their Facebook bubble or whatever like that. And it's insane, right? It's insane that people are able to get into this, and they have this huge mistrust of, like, I mean, we've seen it for the past, 2 years almost at this point. Well, I guess it really is 2 years, with COVID. Just how much misinformation and just how much, like, people just don't trust, like, science or just common sense things, or things that should be common sense, because I think that's the big thing, right? It's things that should be common sense for some strange reason aren't common sense anymore.
Yeah. Well, they and part of the problem is too, they end up like, even a blind squirrel finds a nut, they end up being right every time, every now and then, every time, once in a while is what I'm trying to say. And there's been more and more evidence coming out about the COVID virus stemming from that lab in Wuhan, right? So of course that does not mean it was a biomedical weapon necessarily. But it is quite possible that, or it's looking more and more likely, I should say, if that happened. This gaslights that group of people, it emboldens them. Well, see, I was right there. You shouldn't trust anybody. But no one came out and said, no, that's completely wrong. All I remember are people saying, we need to have more facts before we can say that, right? Which is true, because you're going to potentially accuse a country of starting a pandemic that's killed millions of people, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's I could go on and on about it, right? So
I feel like we both can.
yeah, but this was good. Thank you, Daniel, for submitting this topic. Of course,
Mhm.
we appreciate it. Be sure to leave your topic suggestions in the comments section, or direct message us on Facebook or Instagram, or email us at theketchupcast@gmail.com. Give it to him one more time, man.
Oh man, that is the ketchupcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Mhm.
So this was a good one, and will probably end up being something that we continue to talk about for
Mhm.
weeks and probably months to come. But we'll be back next week with an all new viewer submitted topic to be determined.
Yeah.
It'll be exciting. So keep your
Mhm.
topics coming, and we'll keep catching up with you. Thanks so much for catching up with us, and we'll catch up with you next week. Fuck yeah, dude. Man, I said even a blind squirrel finds a